If you're looking for a third row EV, well, there's only two options. You can wait until next year and get the ID Buzz, or you can wait until the end of this year and get this, the Kia EV9. And I'm here in Korea on a very windy day to take it for a drive. Now there is one caveat about this entire first drive. This is the Korean spec version of this vehicle. This is not the US spec. The Korean spec typically means that the suspension is softer. They prefer a softer suspension than we do in the US. Our suspension tuning is a little bit tighter. In Europe, it's a little bit even tighter than that. And the acceleration mapping, which is how quickly the vehicle takes off when you stomp on the accelerator, it's a little different. It's a little calmer. It's not quite as aggressive. And that said, I'm still driving an all-wheel drive version. It has two motors, 99.8 kilowatt hour capacity battery pack. All the things we're going to get in the US, just in a slightly differently tuned version. And while it was insanely windy earlier, now it's insanely rainy. That 99.8 kilowatt hour of battery capacity will propel the vehicle up to an EPA target of 300 miles for the rear-wheel drive version. For the all-wheel drive version, that target falls to 270 miles of range. Meanwhile, thanks to Kia's use of an 800-volt architecture, the automaker says the EV9 will charge from 10 to 80% in about 24 minutes, which is pretty quick. Oh, and it also has outlets so you can, well, plug in household items into the SUV. So the majority of our time here in Korea, we've been on the freeway, which is a great way to find out whether or not the adaptive cruise control and the lane centering work. But now they have us up in some mountains. We got some nice twisties going on, and really this is not a vehicle for twisties. That said, it handles actually really well for a vehicle this size. You know, you have a lot of heft with that nearly 100 kilowatt hour capacity battery pack in there, but I think the chassis people have done a really good job of sort of mitigating that, sort of making it feel lighter than it actually is. Whee! Back here on regular normal roads that the average person will be driving, you get a nice smooth ride. I have it in normal mode. There is a sport mode. I don't know why people have sport modes in large SUVs, but yeah, it's a nice cruise, and you know, it's what we've seen from Hyundai and Kia. It started with the Kona and the Niro, and then with the Ioniq it got a little bit better. The Ioniq 5 is better than those, and then the Ioniq 6 is better than the Ioniq 5, and with the EV9 I think they're just continuing that progression of fine-tuning and making their EVs just really nice driving machines. Kia says that they are bringing conditional level 3 driver assistance to the EV9. Now, it'll only be available on the GT trim level. Essentially, it's what we're seeing from Mercedes right now. Mercedes recently got permission from California in order to sell their level 3 system to people in California. Level 3 means that it's hands off and eyes off, but you have to be ready to take over the vehicle in case things go, well, a little bit sideways. And conditional means that you can only use it in certain circumstances, which is essentially on the freeway, under a certain speed limit, essentially while you're stuck in gridlock. So while we wait for level 3 and the EV9, we do have a level 2 system. Now, this is the latest system from the Hyundai Motor Group. Now, we first tried it out in the Ioniq 6, and it's so much better than what Kia and Hyundai were offering before. That old system, you had a lot of ping-ponging in lane. The adaptive cruise control wasn't that great. You end up with a lot of weird acceleration and stopping. This system is just so much smoother. It can handle so many more curves. I mean, I'm in the rain, which means it's a bit difficult for the system to work because it's having to battle the rain, it's having to battle slick roads, it's having to battle limited visibility, and it's actually doing a really good job. So I am a fan of what they've done at the Hyundai Motor Group. Up here up front, you have one giant element for both the dash cluster and the infotainment screen, but also something else. The dash cluster is in a 12.3-inch display. The infotainment screen is in a 12.3-inch touchscreen, and then there is a 5-inch touchscreen element that is for the climate control. And that's great because you always have the climate controls available and surfaced to the front. What's less great is the fact that it's actually obscured by the steering wheel. So while you're driving, you can't see most of this screen, which is sort of weird. Fortunately, there are physical buttons for climate control, for temperature control, and for fan control. So if you're the type of person like me and all you care about is setting the temperature either higher or lower and you let the vehicle do the rest, that's fine. The defrosters for the front and rear, those are actually visible up here in the top right-hand corner. So those really are the most important part of this thing, which you, again, can't see most of. Meanwhile, the infotainment system isn't breaking any real new ground. You have a nice home screen that has your navigation, your media, and the battery. And then you scroll to the right or left, and instead of that tablet layout where you have, icon on front and up top, they now just have a carousel. I actually like the old system where I could see more items on a screen so I don't have to scroll nearly as long or as much. Right now we have 5 different screens on here. If they doubled up, then you could get this down to 3. There's a little bit of latency. It's not too bad. It's pretty much what you expect from an automaker at this point. As for the navigation, I've been using it extensively. In fact, I've been using it exclusively here in South Korea, and it works well. It tells me exactly where I need to go. It's very precise. It's likely going to be different when it comes to the United States, just because it is a different country and there are different rules. But if you're driving the EV9 in South Korea, you're going to be okay getting where you need to go. For those that are fans of vehicle updates but don't want to spend time in a service center, the EV9 does support over-the-air updates. Plus, if you just want to plug your phone into the car when you use it, it supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Here in the interior, well, it is typical Hyundai and Kia. You're getting something that's better than what you anticipated. You have these actually pretty comfortable seats. The actual sitting position where my butt is, that's a little bit too firm, but the rest of the seat is really nice. I've been driving for hours upon hours upon hours in this vehicle. You do get the side bolstering does sort of tighten up when you put it in sport mode. So if you decide you want to be a bit more sporty while you're driving, you can do it. Really, my biggest concern when it comes to this vehicle is these sort of plastic bits here and on the door. These tend to pick up fingerprints like there's no tomorrow, especially when they're in black. It's like a CSI agent's favorite in-car material. That said, I really like the wood. I like the sort of the cloth finish, and just, the little aluminum accents. We have a lot of little cubbies. There are a ton of USB-C charging ports. So there's 2 up here in the front. There's 2 here for the people in the second row, and there's 2 on the side for those in the third row. So everyone in the vehicle can keep their phones, tablets, computers, whatever charged while they're traveling. Here in the back seat, I am in the second row right now. I have these captain's chairs. In the back, you have a bench seat, but it's only for 2 people. The interior of the vehicle really isn't packaged for 3 people in the back. Here in the second row, the seats are comfortable. They are power seats, like, forward, move it forward and back. All the things you would expect from power seats. But, and this is something I'm not even sure we're getting in the United States, is that there is this vibration and massage modes. You can actually have it on vibrate and massage. Again, no idea if this is going to be available in the US right now. You also get this cool little cubby down here in the center console. You can pull it out, and on top you have this little tray that you can put a burrito on, or I don't know, a slice of pie, or probably your phone. And then you can slide it back in, and they have this really nice deep cubby that you can put other items in. You can put your chips in there, you can put wet wipes for your children, all the things you want when you're going on a long trip. When you need to haul more than people, the EV9 with all the rows up has 20 cubic feet of cargo space. But once you fold down that second and third row, that jumps to 82 cubic feet of space, which is a lot and quite a run to Costco. The overall design of this vehicle is part of that design language that we've seen on the EV6. You have these very striking lines, but then you have these nice, smooth, long, empty surfaces. And in the back and in the front, you have these really cool lighting effects. We did see the original concept, which had this giant window back here. That's gone, but the interior feels very open and airy because you have so many windows on this vehicle. If you're a fan of Kia's EV6, you're going to definitely be a fan of the way this thing looks. Kia says that the EV9 will be available in the United States by the end of this year. Now, we don't have pricing information, but that will come closer to the introduction of the vehicle to our American roads. For more automotive coverage in the bedroom from 2001, be sure to subscribe to Engadget.